What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for your Overwatch. The Stage 1 finals have concluded about a week ago. Before you know it, we'll be starting into Stage 2. But after witnessing the finals day and sort of the evolution of the pro meta, some interesting things have occurred, and I would say the team that decided to dive lost. There's quite a big asterisk on this discussion, of course, because the pros were playing in the Mercy meta, which we now know we have moved past. However, I think the main thing that I want everyone to remember is that Mercy got nerfed with her instant res mechanic. A whole lot of everything else Mercy enabled is still going to be strong, just the ultimate fight is going to be a bit weaker, which doesn't mean that this defensive dive catching playstyle is going away, whether it's with Mercy or not. I still think there's a lot that we can learn about how teams were really punishing aggression and how to stabilize and slow down the game in order to win, because that's ultimately what happened. The London Spitfire, who ended up winning Stage 1, was trying to dive. They look entirely committed to diving, and it's what ended up losing them their first outing against the Outlaws, but going into the playoffs, they changed their tune, swapped it up to more the Outlaws style controlling play, ended up beating them on their own terms, then moving on to play NYXL, where uncharacteristically the NYXL decided to dive into London, and it failed quite miserably in a reverse sweep. We're going to take a few clips from these different games across that last day of matches to kind of prove this point, and I think no other is best to establish what I mean, other than this basically perfectly executed dive from the London Spitfire on Dorado that ended up losing, and we'll show you exactly why. So we need to slow down and take stock about what the dive is able to do on Dorado. I think a lot of players in matchmaking get caught up fighting in this choke forever, and it's a pet peeve of mine. Don't do that. Utilize the flanks and the different positioning that you're allowed to take, but the coordination here between Prophet and his main tank Gesture, where the point of contact where Prophet's crossing the line of sight only occurs as Gesture jumps in. They're both coordinating from two separate angles, and the thing that the Winston bubble placed here does is cut the playing field in half. Dive Comp wants to find close range engagements, but there's characters in the back line, like NYXL's McCree and the supports back there, that want to play at range. Well, what do you do to break that? Plopping a Winston bubble in the center of them allows for them to focus down any players that are caught out of position in the middle of the chaos. But the problem that the Dive Comp finds is that normally you used to be able to guarantee that frag. You catch out Raucus standing too close to his Orisa, they burst him down, but the problem is all of the cooldowns of the Dive Comp are now gone. Gotta wait a long time for that bubble, which is very crucial to make that attack work without Prophet getting shot by NYXL on the backside. And because of that, Banny was allowed to come in and res up Raucus. No crazy Valkyrie res, mind you. This is just the normal, standard fare mid-fight res that Mercy still has today, meaning that this standard engagement, outside of ultimates being involved, is still really strong with defensive play. The problem is the Orisa bunker comes up so often with the cooldown that she has. NYXL has no choice but to kind of back away and poke, let the res happen, get their cooldowns back and re-engage, but all in that time, you've got the massive firepower of Jake, who builds up a riptire in this entire exchange. He didn't even really need it to close out this fight, and if he would have saved it, the Outlaws would have been even at a bigger advantage. And that's the issue that Dive Comp is facing in the current meta, as well as the Mercy res meta, but I think both metas were quite difficult to dive on, and the nuances of that we'll have to elaborate in later videos, because I don't have the footage to show you for the current patch, of course, because nobody's played on it yet. Going in for another re-engage, they try to get the Genji blade to work out, but Raucus is holding on to his Transcendence. Defensive play wins yet again. And I think it was at this point that London realized, why are we forcing this dive? From this point forward, Birdring's playtime on Widowmaker just goes through the roof. He swaps over to Widow when the end is nigh on this first point of Dorado, and he doesn't look back. He's gonna play it throughout the majority of the playoffs moving forward against the Houston Outlaws and then against NYXL later. And now let's progress forward and how the pro meta developed around this strategy and how Birdring essentially took over the entire finals, largely with this Widowmaker play. Now we're gonna move on to the final for Stage 1, and the two maps that we're going to look at are actually large maps, and that's a key distinction, because normally more close range maps you would expect for multi-tank strategies to be really good, and the larger the map is, the more that the mobility of a dive comp would be able to succeed, because it could do the things that I explained in the Dorado clip, where the Winston lays down the bubble to create a close range engagement, and you could just dive on the target from there. Now, they end up finding an isolated target here with Rascal trying to play a little sneaky here on this left side, and he just isn't able to get away, but Birdring is able to pick off, say, Byobi, and even does some critical damage, I believe, hookshotting over the top to focus down Mekko's mech. And London does a very key patient re-engage. Because remember, on defense, you want to try to yield as much objective time as you need to, other than the last bit of it, of course, in order to bait the objective, in order to find a better engagement for your retake. That's so important. Gesture was contesting the point, but realizes he's got too much heat on him, so he gets the heck out of there. It's not time to fight with a man down. You don't have to overcommit to stop the objective. You need to bide time on the objective, allow them to have some points, heal up, regather your resources, and then throw the resources back at them. All the while, this space that Gesture's created allowed for extra time for the Widowmaker to find shots by maintaining your frontline presence. This allowed for the peel back re-engage to work at all. Rascal comes back on the respawn. That entry pick that they got originally ended up not mattering other than getting a tick and almost that second tick. The timing on that is very important. The re-engage comes right before that second tick is earned in order to revert the progress. This is one of my favorite things to watch out of top level Winston players, is how they play around their ranged hit scan. Because I think a lot of Winston's kind of tunnel vision on go, 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 fight, fight, fight forever, but it's the dance to not die, brawl, get out, and keep channeling your health pool by coming back to your healers that allows for ranged characters to have more time to connect shots. Because like if you're diving in with Genji and Tracer, you have buddies next to you where you can focus fire together. But if you have ranged characters, you never know when that damage is going to hit or where it's going to hit, so you can't overcommit. And if we think about this, what should have NYXL done in order to win here? Well, drop the objective entirely. As soon as you realize the Winston was weak, that was your time to attack. They only have so much healing resources to go around. So if they dropped the objective and went and dove the enemy Widowmaker and try to get frags over there while they had a health point advantage, then they had a chance to win the fight. But allowing for London Spitfire to regroup just gave more time for the Widow to take uncontested shots, where the health point advantage then swapped to the other side, where Mekko's getting demeched. And that's important. Whoever has the more ranged DPS characters in general is going to win a poke battle. I think that's kind of intuitive, obviously. If you have close range diver characters, they have to get in close to do any meaningful damage, whereas if you have Junkrat Widow, the more you can get the fight into a medium range poke battle, you'll just win. This entire team fight went in the blink of an eye, so it could be really difficult to make these calls at the time. And even worse yet, NYXL ends up blowing their support ults for no purpose. Again, they're just sustaining on the point, which doesn't get them anything. You need to win the entire team fight. I know I've said that probably in 100 videos by now, but you need to actually frag the enemy. It doesn't matter if you have the objective, you need to actually kill them. Because if you don't, then Birdring just is uncontested in this whole map, and frankly, the entire series in the reverse sweep that London took over NYXL, they didn't properly commit to actually dive the Widow. They were trying to like dive objective points like this to control them, which just gave time for Birdring to hit shot after shot. It was a really odd way to go about it, and especially with the support ultimate drain, NYXL just aren't going to have any tools to even get a foothold into this map. And you've got things like the Riptire basically winning a point on its own, because Genji's kind of the carry in the dive comp. Tracer does a lot, but the Genji's got to bring the punching power in the ult fight for it to really clear things out. And it's just looking ugly, man. I mean, the Widow Junkrat combo is just too good. And now I actually want to go on to emphasize the role that Junkrat plays in this team comp, because he makes life absolutely miserable for dive characters. We're going to see this even more in effect in this matchup between Boston and Houston Outlaws on Eichenwald, which of course is a very Jake and Lynxer favored map on the whole, but the reason is because they're famous for these two characters, Junkrat and McCree, in this close alleyway, which, let's face it, is a dark, dangerous place for dive characters, especially Tracer and Genji, to get around, because there isn't so much a circular arena for them to fight in, but more of just a death trap for them to walk into. I mean, just look at the bad day that Striker's having, trying to pursue just to get this cleanup. Lynxer comes out of the spawn door, baiting Coolmat a little bit, and catches Striker out with the flashbang. And then Jake pulls out this Riptire, which, because they have no good answer to kill the Riptire, Boston just has to run away entirely. They have to yield all of this ground and hopefully kill the Riptire, but because Neko can't get out of the way fast enough, boom, the entire team fight is over. They have to reset, go back to spawn. And that's never what you want to do as the attacking team. team. You just got all this ground, you were shoving them into spawn. One ultimate is allowed to turn all of that around? That's insane. Junkrat is such an incredible character against dive right now, and I'm going to try to elaborate on why that is. The first of which I think is that nothing really stops Riptire. You have to just shoot it. If you don't shoot it and outplay it, you're basically dead. I suppose in the next meta, some of the best Lucios might be able to time their sound barrier to be able to undo a lot of its damage, but it's still possible with the way that it decays. You might still get wrecked by it. There's not a support ult that can stop the tire. You have to shoot it. So that means if the Junkrat player gets the tire in on you fast enough, you're just going to guarantee a man advantage in that fight. And when you have a team composition that's built entirely around taking space by using mobility to get in close, you can't have one ultimate on the enemy team that just entirely disrupts that and makes you afraid to go anywhere. Now, there's weaknesses to Junkrat, of course, because his damage is largely unreliable, but if you've seen the way that multiple of the Junkrat players on the different maps that we've shown just in this video, but overall in the Overwatch League, the way they play is that they just hold their spot. Wherever that is, wherever it's safe for them to shell and lock down, they just keep that space, and it's impossible to go dive them because they always have the mine threat to punish you for trying to aggress into them. I feel like it's been a long time that I was trying to praise how good Junkrat could be, but it wasn't until I saw how the pros finally started using him that I realized what the potential of the character was going to be. And what that does is allow space for otherwise more diveable DPS counterparts. The duo, the two DPS that you combo together are greater than the individual parts, because McCree by himself is very easy to dodge, but with the Junkrat buddy who can lock down space and lane and punish aggression, dive is struggling in general in this meta, and I don't think it matters that the mine does less damage, because it's just the threat of the mine to smash you in the face whenever Genji's trying to reflect at your McCree. It can catch a tracer out, and there really hasn't been a character that's done this in the Overwatch meta for quite some time. I think Reaper was the best counterpart that I could think of, and one that we had mentioned quite a bit on this channel in the past as well. But the problem is Reaper's more all in on the close range playstyle, whereas Junkrat can be lethal at close range as well if you're a little bit more accurate with his mines. But he also has the long-range spam potential, which Reaper just doesn't do anything at the poke stage of the fight. He has to catch the engagement, which is always why Reaper in dive meta was incredibly situational, and he still is. And overall, Junkrat just has a better ultimate, better range, more crowd control. He's the main reason why we've seen the dive meta ultimately fall flat on its face in the Stage 1 playoffs. So what conclusions can we draw about this playstyle and where it's moving in the current meta? Well, first, I think the truth is Mercy is still going to be a very powerful hero on defense, especially because of how well she enables these defensive DPS type characters. The only difference to the current patch to the one that the Stage 1 playoffs were played on is that the Valkyrie is going to be a lot weaker, which means there's a bigger window to exploit in the ultimate fight. But at the same time, if you just play Valkyrie really well, I think you could still get value out of the normal healing beam to undo like just a Dragon Blade by itself, for instance. And I don't think the Junkrat's going away either way, because if you think it's going to be a multi-tank meta or a dive meta, turns out Junkrat's good against both of them. Ranged firepower is really strong right now, and if the enemy, say, were to go multi-tank instead of dive into your Widow Junkrat, you actually could go like Hanzo. Yeah, I think you legitimately could just keep playing Hanzo Junkrat against multi-tank or even an extra DPS in there. Ranged firepower is just going to blow away anything in the game right now, and I think it's only a matter of time till the pros start to figure that out as well. And overall, for me at least, this is kind of a good thing, because I don't think that an extremely fast Overwatch game is good for viewing or for playing. I know a lot of people probably like the fast mechanical outplay that saw the mobility classes be the top of the meta for a long time, but I think we're past that point now, where they're definitely good in the right circumstance, but they're more leveled out with a lot of other strategies, and overall, a cohesive defensive unit is going to see a bit more success than it ever has in Overwatch competitive play. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so go on and hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. And oh yeah, we've been streaming to Twitch quite frequently, going on that ranked grind. Come watch us play Overwatch live on our Twitch page, link to the description as well. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.